I'm so glad you can join us for our first episode of the Escape Hatch. Comic book art and comic book backgrounds in general, at least for me, take a really long time. I get these complex ideas. So what I want to show you this morning is how I use 3D programs like SketchUp and Blender to kind of shortcut the process and get some really cool, interesting angles. Of course, you could draw your perspective backgrounds by hand. It is doable. In this example, it's a one-point perspective of the haunted hotel hallway. It was fairly involved and it took me a fair amount of time to get this done. Now, if you had to do 6 or 7 panels and variations of them, this is where a 3D app will really save you some time. Let me know if you agree with this statement. I think by and large a lot of comics don't have super intricate backgrounds, at least across multiple pages, because whatever you put into your world you kind of have to repeat, like this chandelier fixture that we're drawing in this one-point perspective. I want to show it in other places on the page, which means I got to draw it over and over again. After completing the first panel by hand, I decided to make a 3D model of the hallway, fixtures and all, so I could reuse it at different camera angles throughout the story. Whichever route you decide to go, no 3D export is perfect. You'll likely find yourself doing a bit of cleanup work, fixing the curves, and retracing some of the lines. Good, I think that worked out pretty well. The panels match up nicely. I was able to add shadows and texture to each of the drawings, and if you're paying close attention, yes, that is the carpet pattern from The Shining. I hand drew that in one of the drawing programs and used a step and repeat. I really enjoyed creating this room. The main hall with the giant fireplace has a touch of the Stanley, a touch of the haunting set piece. And you can see here that it's easier to draw in some of the organic details, like rounded ink lines like this deer is better served in Clip Studio than in like a 3D program. And of course we have to clean up some more of the curvatures. Alright, that wraps up segment 1. I think we're going to do 3 in every episode of the Escape Hatch. I think that's a nice balance. Next up, we're going to talk about background characters. They're very important because they add depth and realism to a story. Sometimes they can help set the mood or even lighten things up. Some of the best movies from my childhood were comedies, and the late, great John Candy was one of a kind. I love his character as a security guard in Vacation. And I like Rick Moranis' character in Ghostbusters. And some of the pages and scripts in my book were like really serious. I said I want to put a security guard that's a little more comedic. So it's kind of a hybrid drawing. Last but not least, because the sun is shining today and it might be an excuse to go outside, is we'll quickly talk about the Samsung Galaxy Tab 6 Lite. I got this device refurbished. Mine's the 2022 version, but I really like it. It's changed a lot of things. I used to run around doing demos with a mini tripod, holding a phone, and I can do time lapse on this thing. I can do pencils, I can do ink work. I'm running Clip Studio, Sketchbook, and Infinite Painter, which I'm not all that familiar with, but it seems to run it just fine. I don't think it counts as a complaint. It's taken me some time to get used to using Android versus a Windows OS. The copy and paste and export features are in different spots. The device does come with an S Pen, featuring all the points of pressure you would expect. That alone makes the device a great tablet to work with. Well, that wraps things up for this episode of the Escape Hatch. thank you for hanging around. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, glad to hear that too.